So I asked the other day over in my Facebook group, Conquer the Food Fight. If you're not already a member, we'd love to have you come join us. If you're someone who struggles with staying on track consistently with healthy eating, that is what the group is all about. That is where I share training, information, insights, and we have so much support and accountability and motivation in this whole fight with food, is how it sometimes feels, right? So over in the Conquer the Food Fight group the other day, I asked just a general question. It was actually at the gym when it hit me, and I just asked, what do you think is the number one thing that is really preventing you from staying on track with healthy eating consistently? And I think I had about 300 responses. And so many of them were sort of fell into similar kinds of themes, right? Like laziness, me, right? A lot of people said myself, like I'm my own worst enemy. Weekends, stress, boredom, exhaustion, my husband bringing home junk food, my teenagers wanting treats, pizza, so many. And even though there was like hundreds and hundreds of them, they all kind of fell. There was a lot of repetition. And I thought this was interesting. And if you're new, if this is one of your first time catching one of my live broadcasts, my name is Sarah Best, and I'm a nutritionist, but people often joke that I'm the nutritionist who never talks about food, because this is really what's interesting to me. I'm a nutritionist, trained nutritionist, so I've done all the posting recipes and talking about carbs and protein and everything, and there's a lot of that out there, right? I think we have enough of that information. In my experience, people who really struggle to stay on track with healthy eating are actually some of the most well-educated when it comes to what to eat and what not to eat, because they've literally done every program, read every book. They know it all. The problem is the doing it, right? The doing it, and the doing it consistently. We end up doing really well for a day or a few days, and then we go right back, or we do well for a week and then the weekend takes us off track. Or, again, we do really well during the day and then nighttime we're binging on the couch on junk food, and we end up sort of sabotaging ourselves. And it's this frustrating cycle. And as somebody who used to be stuck in that cycle myself, after working as a nutritionist for a few years and seeing so many other people sharing the same struggle that I had been dealing with, what I thought was sort of my own personal secret, embarrassing, to be honest, battle with food, I began to realize, as I sort of started to build an audience, that, wow, so many other people share my struggle, right? It's not that we don't know what to do. It's that we struggle to do it consistently. And so that's when I really became obsessed with that missing piece of the puzzle, right? What is it? How do we take all this information we have and this honest desire that we have to make better choices and really care for ourselves and nourish our bodies properly and, eat to live instead of living to eat, and sort of be free, just make healthy choices consistently. It shouldn't be that hard. How can we, what is the mechanism up here that flips that switch, that makes us want to stay on track with healthy eating, that makes it feel more natural and automatic? And that's when I started to just geeking out, learning everything I could about habit change, about neurochemistry and how things like dopamine and serotonin and other neurotransmitters in the brain work, neurocircuitry, like how your brain actually learns behaviors, right? And how it learns things like associating food with happiness, and how we can start to change that and really start to reprogram that. Things like emotional eating, stress eating, binge eating, eating when we're bored, mindless eating, like all of these behaviors and habits around food became so fascinating to me. And I really, really had this huge just eureka light bulb moment myself when I realized that this really is the missing piece of the puzzle. Because I'd done Weight Watchers in South Beach and all of them, and they all worked for a little while until they didn't, right? Until life got in the way and I went back to all my old habits, and I was back binging on potato chips and chocolate bars on the couch at night after my family was in bed. I know you can relate, some of you. So that's really when the switch flipped for me. That when I started focusing on that instead of the food, that's when I was able to really start to change my behaviors, really develop new neural pathways, really change old habits that had been sabotaging me for decades. So Now that's what I teach. It's what I do with my clients. It's what I teach to my students. It's what I write about. It's what I talk about. It's really what I'm obsessed with, because I really believe this is the missing piece of the puzzle. And I've seen it now change so many lives in my programs that I'm not going to stop talking about it. So today to come full circle, I had asked in my Conquer the Food Fight group about what is the number one thing getting in your way. And people came up with all of these reasons, right? Again, my husband bringing home junk food, weekends, stress, mindlessness, lack of time, right? All these things. And what I want to share with you today is that I would argue, and in my years of experience of doing this and working with hundreds of clients and with so much science to back me up, I think I come from a pretty solid place. I want to tell you that those are all just symptoms. None of those are the root cause behind why you're struggling to stay on track with healthy eating, or why I was struggling to stay on track with healthy eating, because I have been there. The true root cause is what's going on up here. Right? All of those choices, the choice to turn to food when you're stressed, to turn to food when you're lonely, to turn to food when you're bored, to not make meal planning and meal prep a priority, to cravings, are a little bit different because there can be a physiological reaction for that as well. But also we do have a deep emotional craving sometimes that comes with food. Even things like weekend binges or social binges when you're out at a restaurant or at a party, or even when your partner brings home the junk food, or when you're on vacation, or at the wedding, right? That too is being driven by old neural programming up here, right? Being that affected by external factors, pressures, temptations, shall we say. That is all part of your operating system. That's what I call it up here, right? Your operating system. And so that is really the root cause. That is what is driving all of those behaviors, right? That the behaviors are what manifest and what we see, right? And so we attribute our frustration to those, right? To the stress, the being tired, the husband bringing home pizza, the, pressure from friends when you're out, like, that's what we see. But the truth is that all of those things have one common root cause, and that is what's going on up here. And, you'll see this in people that you probably have a friend or someone in your life who does not struggle with food. And it's not that they're perfect. They have their own issues, I'm sure. But food is not one of them. They don't struggle with food. So they're the person who impossibly can, be given a piece of like birthday cake and take 2 bites, and then they're like, oh, I've had enough. Or they forget to eat, right? Like these people, I'll never fully understand them, because again, food has always been an area that I have struggled. And that's why I'm so passionate about this work that I do now. But their brains, their operating system is wired in a different way. Okay. So they don't have the same neural pathways that we do. They haven't developed those. They haven't learned those connections between food and feelings the way we have, between food and happiness, food and relaxation, food and joy, food and social connection, the way we have. So again, I'm not saying they're perfect. I'm sure they have their own issues that maybe we don't understand, right? Maybe they're chronic gamblers or shopaholics, or maybe they're in toxic relationships, whatever. We all have our own stuff. But food is not the way their brain is wired. Okay, so it goes to show that all of these external behaviors that we see, that we watch ourselves doing, and with enormous frustration, all come from one root source, which is your brain. And so that's why I believe that really the focus needs to come off the food, right? Off the carbs and the sugar and the calories. Not that stuff isn't important, but we have so much of that information. That's not that tough, really, if you have an operating system that is on the same page. And what I normally see happening when people come to me and they reach out and email me, or they ask to join one of my programs, or they, become a client, what they're doing is they're trying to take new behaviors like meal prep and meal planning and cutting out sugar and reducing their processed carbs and eating more whole food and working out more, making self-care a priority, right? All the things we want to do, all those healthy behaviors. They're trying to put those onto an old operating system, right? And it doesn't work. It's like, I always use the analogy of, it's like trying to play an old DVD in a new Blu-ray player. You know, the new DVD is, or sorry, like an old VHS tape. That's what I should have said, dating myself. An old VHS tape in a new Blu-ray player, right? So it's like they don't match, right? And actually, in this regard, the analogy would be better that it's a new Blu-ray disc in an old VHS player. Because what we have going up here is old programming, right? That is no longer serving us. Old programming that we learned since we were a kid, right? And again, no blame to anyone in our lives or what was modeled for us, but for whatever reason, those of us that struggle with food, we developed these deep neural pathways, these learning pathways in our brains, and our neurochemistry adapted to create this operating system now where we have these unhealthy habits and patterns with food. And then when we try to just map healthier behaviors on top, it doesn't work because they don't match, right? Again, it's like putting that new Blu-ray disc in an old VHS player. It's not going to work. So until you update your system, until you get a new Blu-ray player, and then they will work beautifully together. And it's the same thing when we're trying to put new behaviors on top of our old operating system. So our focus needs to come off the food and instead come onto reprogramming and rewiring that old operating system, which what we know from modern neuroscience now, thank goodness, is that is very doable, right? If you've ever heard the term neuroplasticity, that's the term that neuroscientists use to describe how your brain, what we know now is that your brain is actually very good at reprogramming and rewiring, right? It actually can be done. If you know what you're doing and if you sort of approach it in the right way, your brain is actually very good at breaking down old neural pathways and creating new ones. So we can create a whole new operating system around the new healthy behaviors so that they start to, over time, feel more natural, more automatic, more like your default setting, right? Just like that healthy person in your life, I would argue they have an operating system that is more wired towards the behaviors that they want to adopt. And so it's not that it's all easy for them, don't get me wrong, but it's easier. They have an operating system that is aligned with, that matches the healthy behaviors they want to make. So obviously, I'm not going to get into all the details here in this video. We'd be here for days because I teach this in like months in my program. But I do want to leave you with one thing, because I always want to make these actionable and useful instead of me just sort of talking or even just introducing new concepts. I want to give you something you can work with. So I have sort of a mantra that my students are so used to, and I think, we're probably going to get t-shirts made at some point because it's almost become an inside joke. But and if there's any of my alumni watching this, they could probably gasp before I even say it. But my mantra is replace judgment with curiosity. Okay. So usually when we are dealing with our struggles with food, and especially those of us that are in this hamster wheel where feel like we're taking one step forward and 3 steps back constantly, going around and around, and it's so maddening and frustrating, we beat ourselves up, right? We judge ourselves. Why do I do this? Why can't I get my act together? Why am I so lazy? Why don't I know what I should be doing. Why can't I do it? Why am I so weak, right? You have that mean voice in your head. We all do. So we tend to go straight to judgment, beating ourselves up. And I won't get into all the neuroscience behind why that's actually the worst thing you can do. You can go to my YouTube channel. I have lots of videos where I describe the exact mechanism about why that actually makes things so much worse. But just given what I've talked about today, I want to encourage you to replace judgment with curiosity. So now that you know that it's really just about neurocircuitry and neurochemistry, it's not about a character flaw. It's not about weakness. It's not about lack of commitment. It's not that you don't understand what you should be feeding your body. What's going on is you have an old operating system that was wired in a way decades ago and that you have been repeating and reinforcing over decades of repeated behavior that does not serve you. It does not match the healthy behaviors you want to adopt. So again, there are ways we can change all of that, but we're not going to be able to do all that today. So to begin, just replace judgment with curiosity. So when you make a choice you're not thrilled with, instead of going to judgment, I want you to remember this video and I want you to think, okay, let's get curious. That's interesting, right? That I know better. I truly want to do better. And yet I still did this behavior, this choice I'm not so thrilled with. Fascinating, right? Get curious about that. What's going on there? Why did I do that? How was I kind of hoping that food was going to make me feel? What was I hoping to get from that food or from making that choice, right? And again, this is not an opportunity for judgment. We're replacing judgment with curiosity. I want you to just start to become more aware, more curious, more, just more mindful is the better word maybe, of what's really going on in your habits and behaviors and your patterns, right? This is really the first step. Again, it's not going to get you all the way there, but this is a great way to start. And it's a great way to start breaking up your old pattern. Okay, so replace judgment with curiosity. So when you make a choice you're not thrilled with, instead of judgment, I want you to think, fascinating. What was going on there? Why did I do that? What was I hoping I would get from that? Where did I learn that? Why did I think that would get me whatever it is I'm trying to get? What might be a better way to get whatever I want to get, right? Whatever the feeling is, or whatever, connection, relaxation, feeling like you're filling your cup, whatever it is that you're sort of craving and you hope that food would bring you, what is that? And what's a different way you could get it? Just be curious. That's all I'm asking you to start, right? It's just one little thing to start. So replace judgment with curiosity. Make that your new mantra. Write it on a Post-it note, stick it somewhere, and try to practice it, right? Again, your default will probably be to go to judgment. We all do that, right? First thing. But catch yourself as often as you can and see if you can replace judgment with curiosity. Now that you know, now that I've explained to you and shared with you this missing piece of the puzzle, that it's actually your old operating system. It's this old programming and wiring that, again, wonderfully, good news, can be changed. So I want you to think about that, okay? And I hope that's helpful. I hope it gives you a little bit of an aha, a light bulb. Maybe you didn't think about it in that way before. And again, it's not just me talking. This is hundreds of my clients, students, and so much science out there now. It's 2020, right? We don't have to do the old model anymore. We don't have to be dieting and deprivation and beating ourselves up anymore. We know that doesn't work. It's time to adopt a new approach, a new model, science-based model, mindfulness-based model, right? Let's move into 2020 and let's tackle this in a new way, from a new angle, okay? And really focus on what's really driving the bus. It's not that you're making bad choices. It's that you're relying on an old operating system, okay? All right, I'd love to know what you think about this. Let me know in the comments below. I always love hearing from you and hearing, where this landed for you. And if you have any questions, let me know. I am happy to answer them all. All right, have a great rest of your day. I'll talk to you soon.